Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We're going to give everyone a few minutes to get started, and then we will dive into today's webinar. Thank you for joining us. In the meantime, if you want to put where you're from in the comments section, we'd love to see where our viewers are tuning in from. Great, we have some folks from Washington, SF, Dallas, Portugal. My favorite place on earth is Lisbon, Portugal. Favorite place to travel. I'm originally from Philadelphia, though, if there's any fellow Philadelphians out there. Raleigh, Oregon, SF. Hello, neighbors. We love to see where everyone's from, and thank you again for joining us today. We'll give a minute or so more, and then we will dive into the meat of today's presentation. Philly, we do have someone from Philly. Laurel, hello. All right, well, we will go ahead and get started. Today, we have a really great presentation for you. First, I'd just like to introduce myself as well as my colleagues I have joining. My name is Sarah Tustin. I'm on Google's go-to-market team, dealing with various mobile initiatives. And I am joined by my colleagues, Praveen and Alex, who will give a quick introduction of themselves.
Hi, I'm Praveen. I'm the product manager for Google Optimize. I'm really excited to be here and talk to you guys about what the product can do and how it can help you drive up conversions.
And hey, everyone, I'm Alex Duong, a product manager that recently joined the Google Optimize team. Excited to be here.
Great, and thank you both. And like I said, today we're really excited because we actually have two of the main experts on Google Optimize, so know everything about the product as well as the importance of personalization and A/B testing. So we're excited to have them join, and thank you again, Alex and Praveen, for joining us. So a quick recap and a run through of the agenda. So today we are going to do a quick welcome and also a recap of the pre-work videos, and just give the high levels from the main conversions website that you all watched beforehand. And then we're going to just dive right into the Google Optimize overview, as well as a few case studies, and finish with Q&A. So if you have any questions throughout the presentation, make sure to put them in the live chat, and we will try to capture all of those throughout the presentation. If we miss any, we'll be sure to send resources afterwards. Today's session will be up to an hour. We might end a little bit early, but we have a good set of questions that we want to ask beforehand, so feel free to put more in there in the live chat as well. So for those who are joining for the first time, this is actually week 5 of our 6-week marathon. So we're almost through the end, which is very exciting. So thank you for running this marathon with us. Like I said, it's been going on for 6 weeks, and every week we've discussed a different UX topic. So there has been 4 geographies that this has been taking place, so a true Google global effort, which is exciting. And if this is your first time and you'd like to register for next week's as well, please go on the website there and make sure to register, and feel free to forward to anyone that you think would learn from this content and enjoy the content as well. So quick recap of the video that was on the website. Like I said, the 3 kind of high-level takeaways from the recap video is first, testing is the only way how we can be sure that specific change has a positive impact on your KPIs. Second, A/B testing should be a constant cycle. And finally, use the if then, do to build great hypotheses. So to build off of that, I am going to hand it over to Praveen, who's going to give the meat of the presentation. So take it away, Praveen.
Product manager for Optimize. And what I wanted to talk to you today is how Optimize and A/B testing and personalization in general can help you drive up conversions. And rather than get into like too much pedantic discussions on the product itself, I thought it'll be useful to talk about some of the ways in which our customers have used the product and the kind of results they've seen. Hopefully that's helpful for you. So the first thing that I'd like to convey to you is where Optimize fits in the overall Google stack. So most of our customers who've sort of been successful have been using various products from our stack, and I wanted to sort of talk about where we come in and add the most value. So if you look at the funnel in general, the conversion funnel, right? Really, analytics helps you figure out who are your prospects, right? Who's interested in your business or whatever it is that you're selling, right? And once you have that knowledge, you're able to then use one of our fabulous ads products, right? Like Google Ads, for example, to drive those prospects to the front door of your business, right? And this has obviously been working great. And Google's very happy that you use a lot of our ads products. Now, once you get those highly qualified prospects to that front door of your business, which is in this case your website, what next? Like, what do you do at that point? Now, this is where Optimize comes in. So Optimize's goal is to get your highly qualified prospects from the front door of your business to the cash register, right? Or in other words, that point of conversion. So this last mile in conversion is where we put most of our focus on. So if you've known Optimize as an A/B testing tool, yes, that's where we started. But really, our focus is not so much on testing and learning. It's more about helping you drive conversions and the things that you need to do to get there, of which A/B testing is one piece. So if you're a marketer, you're most likely familiar with analytics, and you know that there's a lot of things you can do in analytics, right? Or I'll use its acronym GA. Everything from where your customers are coming from, what pages they're on, how long are they on the pages, what are the paths that they take. I mean, those are all like deep insights, right? And as a marketer and a digital analyst, you're really, really familiar with that. And also you develop various hypotheses on why people have those type of behaviors. But once you have those hypotheses, you're then coming up with ideas on how you can improve that, right? Improve those metrics. And typically, the pace at which you come up with ideas and hypotheses is faster than the pace at which your dev teams can implement those changes, right? And that's typically the case in most companies. So the dev teams have their own cycle, they have a large backlog, and then the marketing teams or the conversion teams are moving at a much more rapid pace, right? And so this is where Optimize really, really helps marketers with their growth plans, because it helps turn those insights into actions really quickly and really easily, right? So as a marketer, you can now go to a site and make the changes that you want. Maybe you have a little bit of dev help with you, but you can make that without having to get the entire dev team involved, the dev team that owns your site, right? So we have a good WYSIWYG editor. We give you a lot of features in the product that help you make the changes that you need to make rapidly, that you can keep going on your growth plans. So by combining the insights from analytics and the ability to take action with Optimize, you now have a really powerful tool that helps you drive your conversions and your business objectives. Now, I do want to say that when I say conversions, I'm using the term fairly loosely, right? So you might have a business that's a more lead gen, not necessarily an e-commerce conversion, but I consider all those as conversions, right? So some actions at the end of your website funnel. So as most of you know, growth is a never-ending project. I've had to manage growth on some of my own businesses, and it's never ending. And just when you feel like you've gotten a handle on it, the market changes, your demographic profile changes, or your product changes, right? And so it's a constant battle. So when we look across our customer base and when we talk to our partners and just customers in general, and try and find out like what are the obstacles that you have to higher and faster growth, they generally fall into 3 buckets. Now, obviously, site speed. You've heard this story from Google messaging for a long time that your site has to be fast, otherwise they won't convert, right? But by and large, I think most businesses that are on the ball have figured this out, right? You just need to have a fast site. You can't have a dog of a site, right? So once you've gotten past that, then what, right? You obviously need a product that sells, right? And then after that, you need the proper content in order to be able to sell the product to prospects who are on your site, right? So content becomes very, very important, but not just any content. It's content being matched to the intent of the visitor. Right? Whoever is coming there, based on their intent, you need to match the content to them. So that's a critical piece as well. And then there's site design, right? You could have a fast site, you could have all the content, but if your design is suboptimal, then you're going to lose a lot of growth traffic and growth potential. And unfortunately, site design is very, very subjective, right? If you have a design team, every one of your designers have opinions on what the design should be like. So it's very critical that you're able to make sure that the design is the most appropriate for the product you're selling and the audience that you have. So broadly, these are the obstacles that we've seen for faster growth. And what I want to talk about next is show you how some of our customers have overcome some of these obstacles and some of the strategies that they've followed to get there. First big problem is bounce rates, right? Everybody knows this is a problem, right? You've invested a lot of effort and treasure in getting people onto your site, and then they leave without taking any action. So how do you fix this? Transavia is an airline based in the Netherlands. They are wholly owned by the KLM group. They are an optimized user and an Analytics 360 user. And their goal was to drive up mobile conversions. Right? Now, just like many of you, they have a substantial amount of mobile traffic. So what they wanted to do was, get into their user behavior and understand why they weren't getting as much conversions as possible and why they were, having a lot of bounces. And they actually staffed a whole separate team to focus on driving up conversions and growth. So what was really cool is they essentially ran about 10 growth experiments a month, which is quite a healthy growth program. And they had a lot of traffic, so it was great. And based on some of the findings that they had gotten from analytics and some of the experiments that they ran, they essentially were able to deploy an experience on their site that decreased their bounce rate by about 77%. And even more interesting was driving up their conversions by about 5%. A lot had to do with the site design itself, being able to have a call to action that was more visible, higher up on the page, and being able to really tailor it to the visitors who are on that site. Another interesting case study was Mango, and Mango is a retailer based in Europe, and they, similar to Transavia, had a lot of traffic on their mobile site. They found that mobile pages were being visited much more often than their desktop pages, and they wanted to basically monetize that, right, and make it so that the conversions on those pages are much higher. So similar to Transavia, they spent a lot of time in analytics, trying to understand the user's behavior, their journeys through their mobile sites, and ran several experiments. And one of those experiments was to show an add to cart button really early in the purchase funnel. much earlier than you would normally expect in an e-commerce funnel. And with that experiment, once that rolled out, they found there was a 49% increase in the number of users that were adding an item into their shopping cart, which then makes that customer a lot more qualified than other visitors. And overall, they boosted their mobile revenue by about 4%. So really great success stories. And a lot of this has to do with testing out different designs, but really having some strong hypotheses on their visitors that are rooted in insights from their analytics. We talked about content, and if you recall, I had mentioned that it's not just having content about your products, but it's about matching that content to the intent of your visitors, which is quite tricky because you need to know who your visitors are and be able to change the content at the right time. NTUC is an insurance provider, a leading insurance provider in Singapore. They, like many of our customers, use Analytics 360, and they also use our display and video ad product as well, DV360. And their goal was to, improve their ad conversions, right? Their paid traffic conversions, and just improve their ROI in general. So in their case, their journeys actually split between online and offline. Right? Essentially, people get quotes online, and then eventually they'd have some agent call the person who applied and then convert that into an actual customer. And so, this is quite a complex user flow, and they were really engaged and wanted to drive up their ROI. So working with a partner of ours in the region, they really dug into who was coming to their site and what their intent was. And they were able to classify their users into high intent and low intent, and also the types of products that the users were looking at. And if you used Google Analytics, you know that you can create audiences and move those audiences into other products inside in the Google Suite. And so this is one of the real strengths of Optimize. It's natively integrated with Google Analytics, which means that any type of analysis and slicing and dicing that you do and an audience building that you do is just natively available in Optimize. You don't have to do anything complicated to export or any of that stuff. It's just there for your targeting, which is fantastic. So NTUC leveraged that, those benefits, and they were able to now create audiences that, as I mentioned, were classified based on their intent to purchase. And with those audiences, they were able to create experiments to test if certain experiences resonated with those audiences. And then once they found some good, some good layouts that work, they were actually able to deploy those as personalizations. And we'll touch on that a little bit when I talk about the product itself. So, at this point, any of their visitors that were clicking through an ad and then landing on a site will now see a tailored experience for them, which is fantastic. And so doing that, they were able to decrease their cost per acquisition by about 50% and drive up their online sale. Right? And now these are paid. This is the paid traffic, right? So this is the highest value traffic, and they were able to make a lot of return on those investments. So great story. So we talked about site design, we talked about content. Now there's a lot of cases where those two things come together, and sometimes you can argue that they're not separate, they're the same. So here's another example of another customer of ours. This is my favorite customer. I know I'm not supposed to pick favorites, but I did. Now this business is building a conversion platform for businesses to help other businesses drive up their conversions. And being a team that was really interested in getting their product out to more people, they wanted to optimize their experience. The problem that this team had was that they were getting a lot of people at the top of their funnel, but along the way in their web product, they found that people were falling out at different stages, and they wanted to fix that. So if you haven't caught on yet, this is Optimize, and we used Optimize on Optimize to improve our overall growth. So kind of meta there. So what we did was we dug into Analytics 360, like most of our customers, looked at what our funnel looked like, looked at every page that our users go through, what are the things that they click through, and to really understand, why people weren't moving past certain stages in the product, right? And so, what analytics gives you is a quantitative view of your visitors. So we also needed a lot more insight into, what people were thinking about and how complicated, the product was for visitors. So we had our UX research team go out and talk to a lot of our new visitors to really understand where some of those bottlenecks were. Now, as you know, if you've used A/B testing products in general, or even personalization products in general, it is a complicated space. It's not an e-commerce app where the flows are fairly well known. It's a complicated field, and there's sophistication involved in the product. So it takes a little bit of learning in order to get proficient with any product that's there. So we got a lot of good feedback, and we had several hypotheses. As you can imagine, everybody had an idea on what we should tweak. And so we ran several experiments in Optimize. Some of them involved guided user flows, where we suggested what an ideal path would be for someone to complete. We made certain pages just friendlier. The top one is a good example. Like, we added a picture and just made the text a lot more friendlier than it was before, which was very terse, which we tend to do a lot of at Google, unfortunately. And so we made those changes, deployed experiments, and we found that our activations went up by 50%. And for us, activations were people who actually create their first experiments in the product. And besides that, at every stage in our funnel, we saw improvements around like 35%. So this was really great, and we continue to do this often. We don't talk about it much, but it was something that we thought was very useful for our customers to understand. So those are some customer stories and how they've succeeded using Optimize and using testing, and essentially to drive up conversions. And what I want to do is talk a little bit about the key parts of the product itself. As you know, Optimize started out as an A/B testing tool, right? It's your classical A/B testing tool. You have a free product, a paid product. And really, the goal when we launched was to allow you to test high growth ideas easily, right? Presumably, you're in analytics, you have those insights, and you want to experiment with them, right? But as we matured and really focused on conversions, we started adding more things to the product that were critical, that we felt were critical for advertisers and businesses to have in order to drive up conversions, right? Personalization is a good example. So personalization in the product is essentially, if you think about it, is it allows you to decide what is an experience that a specific set of users should see when they come to your site, right? And similar to experiments, you can create different treatments on different pages and then deploy it. Now, the difference between a personalization and an experiment is that in an experiment, you're tossing a coin and you're sending some people into this customized flow, and others you're keeping on a control, and you're really measuring if this change that you made is good or bad, right? For the personalization, now that's something you can do after the experiment is done, right? So let's say you find version B is doing really well. You push one button, and now that version B is available to everybody in that audience, and they're no longer being sent into a control. So it's a really easy way for you to deploy changes onto your site. And the other big difference is the personalization runs forever, or until you decide your dev team has the bandwidth to take it and implement it. So a really great piece of the puzzle for you that's available in the product. Another key part of the product that we launched late last year or middle of last year that our customers have been starting to use quite a bit is our integration with ads. So as I mentioned earlier, one of the strengths of Optimize is how deeply it's integrated with Google Analytics, with AdWords or Google Ads, and in the future integrations with other Google products, right? So that integration is deep, and you don't have to do a lot to get these two products to work together. With ads, now what you can do is you can tie a specific ad campaign or a keyword or an ad group to an experience in Optimize. So if you run an ad and you want to see if there's a specific type of landing page variation, if that will work, we can run an experiment on the landing page and see if it'll work. And only people who click on that ad will come to that experience. So it lets you do things like this, right? So today, for the most part that we've seen, customers run a lot of ads, right? And the ads are beautifully targeted to the people that you want to reach. But most of the time, the landing pages for those ads are either a generic page or there's some URL complexity that you add in. And if you have the dev resources, then you build multiple campaign pages for specific ads and ad campaigns, right? But with Optimize, now we take away some of that burden, right? So you could now create variation as a marketer without relying on the dev team. You can create variations of your landing page and then tie those variations in Optimize to specific ad campaigns, right? So now you can create these personalized journeys that go end to end, all the way from an ad to the landing page and deeper onto that site as well, which is really great for when you want to look at conversions and how people who have a coordinated experience add more value. So with that, I wanted to highlight a few new capabilities that we launched in the last few weeks, maybe a couple of months. Multi-page experiences. So a multi-page experience is one where you want to create a coordinated experience on multiple pages for a group of users or for everybody, right? So think of, in this case, like a discount that you want to show on the home page, and then on the product page, and then on the checkout page, right? Now you want to experiment if that discount works, right? But it needs to be coordinated across multiple pages. Or maybe you're testing out a new theme. Maybe it's a Halloween theme that you want across multiple pages. So that's multi-page experience. So we recently added the ability to do multi-page testing and multi-page personalization. And this is available in the free product, and you can start using it right away. So it's really great. A lot of our customers start using it, and they're seeing great results with it. The other feature that we have that we've actually, this is not out yet. This will be coming out shortly. It's an experience debugger. It will help you look at, if you're using Optimize, then you'll know that this is going to be really useful for you. It really helps you understand what rules are firing and why you're not seeing certain experiences in the product. So it makes it just easy for you to create these tests and put them out there. Now, last but not the least, we've heard quite a bit from our customers that there's not a lot of content that there is content, but it's scattered around the web on what are the best practices to drive up conversions, right? What's the best practice for A/B testing? A lot of times customers hire partners to help them with it. Now, in Google, we have a lot of groups that have been focused on conversions for a long time. And there's a lot of best practices that we've built over the years. And so we've brought all this together into one place, calling the Optimize Resource Hub. And it's available from the product. It's also available directly if you go to it. It really talks about what are some ways in which you can come up with hypotheses, come up with ideas, what are some things you can do on the landing page versus product detail page, things like that. It's a first, we've just launched this about maybe a week ago, and we plan to enhance this continuously, bring in content from our partners and so on. And it's available as a resource for everybody. You don't have to be a customer to use it. So with that, I will be happy to, Q and I will be happy to take questions.
Great. Thank you so much, Praveen. Really appreciate you running through all that content. That was great. And love that our viewers got a sneak peek into what's to come. So thank you for that. So first, we're going to go through a few pre-submitted questions, and then we will go into some of the live questions that you all are putting in the chat. So if you have more that come up, please put them in the chat there. So first question. One of our viewers wants to know how to make the case for A/B testing to be a regular occurrence for executive buy-in, as currently there is no process in place and unsure what the best approach is to start.
Yeah, so this is a good question. So we actually get this question quite a bit. And our response is that, to really look at this from the conversion angle. Now, this is somewhat controversial, and I've discussed this with other practitioners. But I really think that, a lot of businesses know what they need to do to drive up conversions, right? So, you have, your business best, and you already have a sense for, what type of paid campaign that you're running actually helps you drive conversions, right? So what we've recommended is, come at it to your executive, come at it from the ad conversion angle and say, look, we're spending so much money on our ad campaigns. This is our CPCs, and do you want to drive that up or not, right? Or drive that down, right? And usually the answer is yes, if it's a CMO or whoever, right? And with something like Optimize, you can immediately start showing them value there by starting out with a personalization, right? So this is the controversial part. So normally you want to test out certain hypotheses and then deploy them as personalization, right? But it's not necessarily it's not going to kill you if you start out with a personalization tied to your ad campaign, because a lot of times you already have done experimentation with your different ad campaigns, so you have a sense for what would work, right? So you could always try with the personalization, see if that's moving up your conversions, and then in Optimize you can move the personalization into an experiment, right? So anyway, so the short of that is that, oftentimes we find resistance, or customers have resistance with their executive buy-in when they push the A/B testing story first, because now people are thinking, oh, I need to staff up statisticians, and it's hard for them to grasp the value of A/B testing, and it is valuable. So oftentimes it's easy when you approach it from the conversion angle, from the ad CPC angle, saying, hey, here's how we can drive down CPCs and drive up conversions, and show them with some personalizations how you can do it.
Great. Thanks, Praveen. Second question. I know you've touched on this a little bit, but what is the best way to orchestrate A/B tests?
Yeah, so as most of you might know, right, it's really important to start with what your growth objectives are, and then prioritize those objectives first, and then decide where those objectives are maximized, like where on your site those objectives are maximized, right? So for example, like if you're based on the insights that you have, if you find that you really want to drive up the number of people who put things in the basket, right? So then that is your highest priority. That's your goal, right? And then so your tests should be organized around that area as opposed to further earlier in the funnel, right? So it really depends on your business and what your growth objectives are. Once you have that, then there's different tools. We have customers who've used various tools to organize their hypotheses and then the related tests for those hypotheses. And so we've seen everything from like spreadsheets to very tailored tools to organize these A/B tests. But generally, I'd say priority is to organize what your growth objectives are, growth areas, and then the tests that are tied to those areas.
Great, thank you. Yeah, so always making sure that you're prioritizing and just being organized in your approach. Third question, who should be in charge of the optimization process? Product team, marketing team, data team?
All of them. So again, I've been in small companies before, so a lot of times you don't have the luxury of having separate teams. But generally, you'd want people who know and are responsible for different parts of your funnel involved in the decision-making process, right? So clearly, product team, because they hopefully understand who your customers are and what your customers are thinking about when they are landing on your site. And then a marketing team for to understand what kind of messaging they're supposed to have, and and then your data team, of course, to deliver the insights, right? So it has to be all those people, or at least you need to be able to serve in all those functions to pull it together. It's usually not going to work if you only have the product team involved or just the marketing team involved, because you could do whatever you want on the marketing side with the copy and the pictures and all that, but you're not going to drive up conversions if the product itself doesn't resonate with the people arriving on site, right? So it is a cross-functional effort.
Right. Yeah, really does take teamwork to get there. Question 4, when do we do CRO? We always stay in we need to reach a higher conversion rate. But what set or estimate is a reasonable standard? It feels we are always having to improve since we don't know what good necessarily looks like.
Yeah, so this is somewhat similar to saying how much revenue should we make in a quarter.
It's limitless.
Ideally it's as much as you can. With any business, right? You have to balance it with other opportunities that you have, right? And every business and every stage of the business tends to have certain conversions or certain objectives that you can hit. And at which point you start seeing diminishing returns, and then the more you invest in it, yes, you will go up, but you might be leaving other opportunities on the table, right? So I know it's not a good answer, but generally, I think talking to other people in your cohort helps. I've found success when I've talked to people at different events and asking them what typically their conversion rates are, and getting a sense for what a standard is over there.
Got it. So really talking to other people as well and seeing what your competitors or peers are doing to make sure that you're setting those expectations. Okay, next question. How long does it take to determine the success of an A/B test? When should you share the findings with your company?
Yeah, so this is a great question. I'm glad somebody asked this. So we get asked this quite often, saying a different version of this, which says, how long should I run my test, right? So one of the key differentiators of Optimize compared with some of the other tools out there is the kind of analysis that we do. So we use a Bayesian analysis method to determine if an A/B test is successful or not successful. And the advantage of the Bayesian method if you're not a statistician, and I'm not, is that a Bayesian model is how we naturally think of something about success of something, right? So when we show the results of an experiment as the experiment is going on, we're showing you actual probabilities of success, right? Oftentimes people look at other tools and let's say it says 95%, they'll say, oh, I'm 95% confident that this is going to happen, right? But that's actually an incorrect interpretation of those results. So what we show in our tool is the actual probability of success, right? So let's say that you're running a test, an A/B test, and we say that B has a 75% probability to beat the original, right? And we're showing you an improvement range. The improvement is between 2% and 7%, right? So what that means is that you have a 75% chance if you deployed this that you will see the conversion in that range, right? So that's an actual probability. So at that point, you can make a call to stop the test. Maybe that's you like your odds. You like that 75% is good because a lot of people don't want to run experiments till they get to a 95% confidence. They want to run it to a couple of business cycles, so maybe it's a couple of weeks, and they want to end it, right? So oftentimes at the end of say 4 weeks, they look at it and it says 80%. We will say, the product will say that there's an 80% probability for the variant to beat the original, and the tester goes, yeah, I'll take those odds, and then I'll deploy the test, right? So that's the strength of a Bayesian type of method that Optimize provides. You can directly take action on the results that are there. You could even look at the results at 60% and say, hey, I'm a gambler. I'll take those odds because I really want to deliver it, right? It just depends on the type of test you're running and other circumstances, right? So in the product, if you've used the product, you know that we also call a winner. It turns green and we say this is a winner. We have a really, really high bar before we call a winner. At that point, it's like really, really clear. We've looked at how confident you can be. We look at the probability and we make sure that the probability is really high. We also look at how much value is left on the table, like if that was incorrect. So we look at a lot to decide what the winner is. But you don't have to wait till that point. Right? So that's kind of my point in this whole answer. So how long does it take to determine the success of a test? You can really go to the results and you can make a call for yourself based on the odds if you think you want to deploy it or not.
Great. Thank you, Praveen. Can we run multiple tests at the same time?
Yes. So Optimize lets you run multiple tests at the same time. We have a limit of 5 simultaneous tests that you can run for the free Optimize free version. And for our premium version, it's unlimited. And we have the ability to do multivariate tests. So you can test different pieces of a particular page at the same time. So yes.
Great, thank you. We'll do last one pre-submitted, and then we'll do a few of the live ones. Question 7, is it wrong to survey users before an A/B test? For example, if we ask them if they like a new layout using XYZ features, and then to apply the A/B test, is that a wrong way to go about it?
I don't think it's the wrong way. I think it's great. Anytime you have an ability to get information from your users or from your visitors about an experience that they have, I think you should go for it. So I'm, as you can already tell, I'm not pedantic about any specific process. I think you need to use it, if it fits you. So in this case, we have a Google Surveys tool that you can use to get sort of qualitative input from your users, and then based on that, decide what hypotheses you want to test and what layouts you want to test. So yeah, absolutely.
Great. All right. Well, then we will do a few of the live questions here. First one, and I think you did answer this a bit at the end, but if you could just reiterate it as well. But is there a way to help determine if a problem is in my code or the injected experiment code? And I think you addressed that with the new debugger feature. So
okay, is there a bug in the treatment itself versus the original code that so the debugger should help, right? So we have a way for you to preview changes in the product. So when you create your test or your personalization, you can preview your changes and see if there's an issue there. You can use the debugger to then track why that you have that issue. So yeah, you can certainly use those two things to figure it out.
Which one? Great. Okay, and then final question here. In what ways have you seen customers use Optimize as a product content management tool? Can we entirely bypass our IT department?
You're not going to tell anybody this, right?
Yeah, just for us.
So when we rolled out personalization, or even before we rolled out personalization, it was one of the things that customers had asked us about, right? They said, can we use this as a work around our dev teams? So it's not so much of a workaround. So yes, so you can use personalization to make certain changes that then runs for everybody that's coming to your site or for a specific target group that's coming to your site, right? But again, you can't really use it as a full-fledged CMS, right? Because presumably your website has more than the type of content that you can put in Optimize. So I wouldn't necessarily say it's a way to bypass your CMS team or your dev team, but it's definitely a way for you to take some load off of them while they're working on more, while they're working through their backlog, and then you're able to eventually bring it in. Now, some things like if you're building a specific experience for a specific audience, then it might be really complicated for your dev teams to do. So you could just use Optimize as a personalization engine to do that. And then, so I would definitely support that. But you should definitely keep your dev teams in the loop on what's going on there.
Great. All right. Well, thank you so much. This has been very insightful and really great content. So really appreciate it, Praveen and Alex, for all of the hard work that you put into this. To everyone in the audience, I hope that you enjoyed today. It was a really special treat to have the actual Google product managers who are the experts on this product on today's live stream. So thank you so much for tuning in. We will be back next Tuesday for our final webinar of this marathon series. So thank you again for all of those who have stuck with us these past 6 weeks. It's been really great to see all of you interact and get involved. So thank you. There will be a feedback form that will go out, and we will also have this recording posted on the YouTube channel so that you can reference it going forward and send it to any of your colleagues. So thank you again, and have a great day.
Thank you.